Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We have a lot to talk about this week. Yes, the Vikings are playing well, the Twins, so we're going to skip over that. We don't want to jinx them. And also, how about the Lynx? They're on fire. Joining us today, we have Sloane Martin, who's been with the team for a long time. Not only play-by-play and color, she's also a sideline reporter. She knows this team inside and out. I can't wait to get to our conversation, so please stick around for this. This is going to be fun.
Yes, welcome to Dawn of Sports. Let me reintroduce Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9, sports anchor. Our guest, Sloane Martin. We're going to talk about the Lynx a couple of times in this show. We also want to talk about Gopher volleyball, a fascinating team. And Dawn and I both cover the Vikings, so we'll spend a moment on the Vikings too, because they are a remarkable story. But let's start here. Sloane, you're around the team more than we are. You are at more games than we are. What has it been like to cover this team?
It has been different than any other season I've been around. I've been around this team since 2018, first writing about them with The Athletic, then being a broadcaster for this team too. And you just think about this collection of people, how cohesive, how connected, how perfectly the parts fit together. It has been an absolute blast to see them win in multiple different ways. The strongest roster and the strongest chance for a championship since that final dynasty team of 2017. So it has been a special year. It's been a fun year for sure, too. And certainly the ride's still going.
Sloane, let me ask you this. When everyone, they look at Cheryl Reeve and they're like, okay, she's built champions before. And it's not so easy. We've seen over the past couple of years, they had to rebuild this team. Many people think, wow, where has this team come from? Way too early. Like it may be like a year or two ahead of what people predicted. I think some people couldn't even predict it, especially when the draft came and they selected Alyssa Peely over Angel. So what are your thoughts in terms of the speed at which this has happened?
I don't know if you necessarily could have seen this team be outside the top four. This is still a Nafisa Collier-led, Cheryl Reeve coached basketball team. So I know Cheryl has often pointed out to those, preseason predictions that had them much lower and even missing the playoffs. That's certainly been something that has motivated them throughout this year. But you're right, Dawn, where even coming into this season, you were wondering a little bit, yes, you have Nafisa Collier leading this team, but what really is the future here? You don't want to be picking 7th, 8th, 9th in the draft. That's not how you get better. That's not how you become a championship team. Look at the Las Vegas Aces, the 2-time reigning WNBA champions, and the multitude of number 1 picks they have on their team. That's really the secret sauce of how you, build a championship contender. And I think this season, for exceeding the expectations that I think many people had, you really have to put the credit on the general manager, Claire Duelius, for bringing in Courtney Williams and Alana Smith. Mm-hmm. And then also Cheryl Reeve. You have multiple players having career years. And then you look at Nafisa Collier, too, who has continued to build herself year in, year out, one of the top 3 players in basketball. But I think this year even found an extra gear, not just as a leader, but that fierce competitor who's going to carry her team, and she's going to be the one to win it. So I think the combination of all those things, the coaching, the pieces, the people, the offense, so different from what we're used to seeing from a Cheryl Reeve coached Minnesota Lynx team, where they are spreading the floor. They're going 5 out a lot of times. They're a small team. They're undersized, but they still have that defensive identity that you associate with Reeve, and it just has fit together so perfectly. All these components really progressing along the same rate.
Yeah, let's go back to game 1, that huge victory. And you talk about just the different offense. When Bridget Carlton drains that 3, part of their 7-0 run near the end, and then you mentioned Smith, that block around the rim, just continuing to be tenacious. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be Fee carrying the team. They spread it around. I mean, K-Mac even had 20 points. That it's a new brand. They're very unselfish, just like Cheryl Reeve's teams of the past, but they have this different tenacity that even though, all right, it might be close, we're going on a 7-0 run. We're going to drop a 3. It's like so casual, but it's so fierce. It's kind of hard to put your finger on.
Yeah, from the very beginning of this season, the players would say there's just this underlying confidence that we have because we started to learn early on, Don, how unselfish this team was. You look at their assist rate, their assists per game. Sometimes there will be mind boggling stats. I remember games this season where they would have 31 assists on 34 buckets, just absolutely unimaginable numbers in terms of just sharing the basketball, making it so difficult to guard. And you're exactly right. Of course, Fee has had magnificent performances, finishing second in MVP, taking all but one vote for second behind a historic season by Asia Wilson. But you're right that it is anyone's night on any given night. Courtney Bridget has had a tremendous season. She was my vote. I was one of the media voters for WNBA postseason awards this year, and Bridget was my vote for most improved player because she wasn't even a starter to begin the year and then has become one of the most important parts of this team. We always knew what she could bring off the bench, who she was as a role player, the ability to make the right pass, the right decision, hit that big shot, but now she's really doing that on a very frequent basis. So you're exactly right. The defensive tenacity, players like Courtney Williams setting up her teammates. She plays a really unselfish style of basketball. I'm getting excited even talking about it because this team truly has been so fun to just follow, to watch play basketball. It's aesthetically pleasing. If you just want to see just a really good brand of basketball, this is what the Lynx have been this season, and you can go up and down the roster.
And, everybody knows Cheryl Reeve is an amazing coach, but let's back up in terms of what she's had to deal with this year with not only this team, but also Team USA. You're wearing two different hats, high profile hats. You're juggling so many different rosters and personalities and what's going on. And the fact that she can grab gold and then come back here and just the team is just flying high under her tutelage and she gets coach of the year. I think people, oh yeah, they just expect it. But that comes just with a highly functioning IQ of how to handle people, how to handle yourself, and handle basketball.
Yeah, Cheryl, the longest tenured head coach in the WNBA at this point, the second winningest head coach in WNBA history. And you think about, too, that is a good reminder, Don, they did win the gold medal. So despite all of these questions, the criticisms, the skepticism about that run in the Olympics, they won gold. That's right. What she's in possession of. That was the goal and that was the point. And she and Team USA won gold. So let's also keep that in mind too. But, it's something that she's spoken publicly on. When you talk about just, things that have come up this season, kind of a lot of questions for a couple months about, roster management with that team, who is not playing and why, and just questions about games being close in the Olympics too. And she even, that was very vulnerable, saying it kind of took the shine off the experience a little bit, that it was, kind of difficult to deal with and not something that previous coaches have been accustomed to. Plus, then you have, members of the media who maybe thought the Lynx were even going to miss the playoffs this year. And, what is Cheryl Reeve going to do to get back to that championship type of level of WNBA basketball? So I think to, win a gold medal, be here on the precipice of one of the top two teams in the WNBA at this point, still a lot to go and challenges ahead, especially if they do overcome Phoenix and potentially meet the Connecticut Sun in the second round. There still are, of course, challenges ahead, but you look at the way she has been able to handle all of those when there have been questions and when there has been criticism. I think that, could be a really satisfying ending here, depending on how things turn out.
This is Dawn of Sports, part of TalkNorth.com. The best way to listen to this show or any of our many podcasts on the network. Subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. I'd run through the lineup, but it's so long it would take forever. We have just the best people in pretty much every sport, so check it out. Our producer today is Alex Haugen. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Aquarius Home Services, longtime sponsor Rudy Luther Toyota, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Natrium. We'll tell you more about them in a minute here. Once again, we're with Dawn Mitchell and Sloane Martin. And I will say this. I'm incredibly impressed by what Cheryl has done this year, by her ability to put together a roster without adding superstars that can play this well together, by the way she's managed the team, by the way she's emphasized three-point shooting. She has a great coaching staff, including Katie Smith and Rebecca Brunson, one Hall of Famer, one should be in the Hall of Fame. I will say this, though. There were reasons not to think this was going to be a great team. Over the last 2 years, They were 33 and 43, 2 losing seasons in a row. And I don't know that anybody could have realistically expected Courtney Williams and Alana Smith to have this much of an impact coming in the way they did.
No, I think you're exactly right. I still don't disagree with thinking of them as, even coming into the season as an outside of the playoffs team when, again, you have Cheryl Reeve and Nafisa Collier leading this squad. I think that would have been a pretty huge drop off to try and predict. But you're exactly right. When you look back at the last couple of seasons, and that's why I brought up, too, that this team seemed to be kind of floating around that, getting into the playoffs, that 7-6-5 seed, and where do you kind of go from there? Where is that going to put you in that draft position? Really, what is the clear vision for the future of this team? And I think a lot of us thought too, you're right, those are really respectable players, Alana Smith and Courtney Williams. But this was brought up during the season too, Jim, that Alana Smith, and she even reflected on this with media, saying 2 years ago, I wasn't on a roster. She was cut from the Indiana Fever, who were in pretty desperate strains at that point in their franchise. And the way that she has battled back, finding a role for herself, she was able to blossom. And you're right that might have been unpredictable, even if you're kind of a more, analytic slant about, looking at, Courtney Williams and Alana Smith and what their production has been this year. But that's why I think, too, it really speaks to the development and seizing the opportunity of the personnel that she has. Cheryl Reeve, at this point in her career, pivoting to what this team in particular needs to get the most out of the talent that is there. So I think that you're not wrong that seeing the Lynx as the number 2 team, 30 plus wins, probably very few people would have predicted that, even knowing that those were, pretty solid free agent pickups, but not knowing what would happen, how they would evolve and just blossom in these roles. And I think that's what's made this season really fun, honestly, is the surprises of that too and how well they've all fit together.
Yeah, unexpected success is always the most fun in sports. We're seeing that with the Vikings. We're seeing it with the Lynx. I want to talk also about Gopher volleyball with you. It's a great sport we probably don't cover enough. Let's take care of our sponsors here. Then let's get to the Vikings, Gopher volleyball, and more Lynx talk with Dawn and Sloane. Once again, thanks to longtime sponsor, longtime supporter of women's sports, Rudy Luther Toyota.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit rudyluthertoyota.com today.
Thanks to another Minnesota company doing great things locally, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. I am happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities has chosen Minnesota Bound and this podcast as a place to help spread the word. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
Now I'm going to talk about Natrium, and Dawn always says I sound really enthusiastic about Natrium. She's right.
It's your BFF. It's your BFF.
I've used the product, and I used the product before we even ever thought about having them on as a sponsor. Just so many varieties, balms, oils that help out your digestive system, dips, gummies, drinks. You can take the stuff for fun, for relaxation. It can help with your gut health. It can help with pain, whether it's headache or arthritis or joint pain. I take it mainly if I have a headache, I prefer this to over-the-counter drugs. If I need sleep, it helps me with sleep. And sometimes it's just nice to have a little bit of something that takes the buzz off, takes the edge off without have a cocktail. You don't want to drink 7 days a week, or maybe you do. It's just not a great idea. So I love Natrium. I guarantee there is either a Natrium or a Wildflower near you. There are 2 Wildflowers near me. There's the big Natrium store in St. Louis Park. And one of the things I also say is this ain't like the old days. You're not walking into Cheech and Chong's basement. You walk in, it's a beautiful, neat, well-run store with friendly, helpful professionals behind the desk. It's one of the coolest stores you can go into. So find out where there's a Natrium near you, check it out, or go to natrium.com and order delivery, natreum.com. All right, let's get to Dawn's thoughts on the Vikings and then talk Gopher volleyball. So Dawn, you cover the team. I was walking up to the stadium on Sunday. I heard your voice being broadcast outside the stadium. What do you make of this 3-0 start?
Well, first of all, I did not have Cheech and Chong being mentioned in this podcast on my bingo card. So thank you for that. That made me laugh. You just never know. And maybe not on anyone's bingo card is the Vikings starting the season 3-0. And I always say on this podcast and elsewhere that I don't judge a team until 3 games in. And I will say one thing, the resilience of this team, because what they had to deal with even before they hit the field at all, dealing with Kyrie Jackson, dealing with J.J. McCarthy going down, dealing with all their cornerbacks basically virtually depleted and bringing in new guys. I am surprised at the unity and the cohesion and the strength and the power of the defense in terms of bringing in all of these people. So Brian Flores, it's like bowing down. Kudos to him in terms of what he has done. Stephon Gilmore, he comes in, like, hey, what's up? Like he's been there all the time and playing well. And then Jonathan Grunard, all the new guys, Van Ginkel, you name it. Blake Cashman, they're coming in and they're playing like they've played together for a long time. So starting first on the defense, I think what's most surprising for me is how well they're playing as a unit coming in with so many new guys. And on the offense, I knew Sam Darnold, you could just see it in his eye, had an edge and a chip on his shoulder from the beginning of camp, but handled it so well. Knowing J.J. McCarthy was drafted and he's now the heir apparent, but he's not old himself. And then when you would see his arm strength show up in camp. So the fact that they're doing it on the field and it's just proving that he has the goods. He has to be surrounded by good people. So with that said, I am not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. I'm not any of those people, Jim, but I am happy with how this team is playing. Harrison Smith even said it to me in the locker room after. He said, I pulled Jets aside on the sideline and I said, I've been around the game for a long time and you can tell when a team has something. I'm not saying, we're only 3 games in, but you can tell when a team has something. He goes, I can feel it, and I wanted to make sure that they knew it too. And Aaron Jones, as the new guy on the team, he goes, I was just talking to my mom about that. He's like, I don't know what it is, mama, but there's something about this team. So when you have guys believing that and kind of, I hate that term buying in, but when they're playing for each other and they're enjoying it, and they're playing good football, I'm all for it. Let's see where it's enjoyable to watch them, Jim. I don't know about you, but I'm along for the ride, and I'm not shocked, but I'm pleasantly surprised at how quickly this team has come together as a unified force.
I am shocked, but I'm
you
pleasantly
are?
shocked. It's fun to be
Okay.
shocked. Yeah, I thought they'd be 1-2 at this point. I'm not going to hide it. I didn't think this was going to be their year. It's been remarkable. It's been fun, and we talk about Cheryl. I think the way that Kwesi and O'Connell and Flores have worked together, not just coaching and building the team, but also finding exactly just like Cheryl. Cheryl did not win any awards in the offseason for getting Courtney Williams to Lana Smith, but they fit perfectly. Well, you trade all the Vikings free agents they brought in have fit perfectly. So really the 2 best stories in Minnesota right now, the 2 best big stories are the Lynx, what they've done this year, and the Vikings start. But let's get to another great story we probably haven't talked enough about, which is Gopher volleyball. Tell us, it wasn't a great first season for the new coach, but he seems to have found his footing. What do you think, Sloane?
Yeah, I think it is really looking like a strong comeback. And of course, things are going to feel a little awkward when you have a brand new coaching staff come in. Hugh McCutcheon was obviously beloved, and it was kind of an unexpected, departing from his position as a head coach, too. But, those players that have stayed, like McKenna Wooker and Melanie Schaffmaster, Phoebe Awalea is another one, too, are really huge for this team. So they started out, of course, with that huge upset over the reigning champions in Texas in 5 sets. They were close. They lost in 5 to Stanford, and I think that really set the tone for what this team can be this year. They have now won 6 straight all sweeps, and they're starting off Big Ten play in a border battle against Wisconsin on Wednesday night. So that is something that I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to be on the call for that for Big Ten Network along with Emily Eamon. And I think you're looking at 2 heavyweights in this matchup. The Gophers are perpetually a top 5, top 3 team. And I think they're still trying. Yes, they got everyone's attention with that win over Texas, but still trying to establish, hey, we're still here. We're still one of the elite teams, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country, and a big opportunity in front of them against the reigning National Player of the Year in Sarah Franklin, who is looking like she could repeat at that award as well. And remember, too, when you're going up against Wisconsin, you have 2 players, 6'7" Carter Booth, former Gopher, 6'9" Anna Smrek, right there at the net. So I always look forward to this matchup. I mean, no matter what sport it is, who is playing, but this one in particular, I think they're going to be pretty fired up at the path.
You talk about Keegan kind of stepping into a role with a lot of pressure, because not only did Hugh kind of take this team to the next level, he's still at the U, so it's not like he went off into the sunset in a different country or a different state. Like, Hugh's still at the U. So what is it that Keegan brings to the table that this year, in just the second year, he can really claim it as his own?
Yeah, he said in year 1, he did a lot more managing than coaching. And the last 18 plus months have been just fortifying these relationships. And he came into this season saying, I feel really good about where we're at. You know how to push your players, what buttons to push and when to pull back. And sometimes when you're inserted into that role, especially at a place where you're right, where it was so under Hugh's control, and you're right that he is still there in the athletic department, it can be, I think, an even more difficult kind of situation to come into, as opposed to, let's say, a program is in shambles, the head coach is, axed, and you're stepping in kind of with a fresh slate. You're coming in with national championship expectations. And last year, they were able to make that turnaround. They won 10 of their last 14 matches in Big Ten play, finally able to hit their stride when it looked like it was pretty clunky, pretty choppy for this team to try and pick up wins early in the season, especially early in Big Ten play. But a second round exit in the NCAA tournament, even though they were able to get there, in their last 25 years, they've only missed the NCAA tournament one time in 2014. So able to scrape themselves in as an at-large. But this is a team that has at least Sweet 16 aspirations, and that's what the expectations are. And that's something that I, commend Keegan Cook. He has not shied away from what that legacy is, what the tradition is here too, and holding himself to that kind of standard. Remember, he went to a Final Four when he was the head coach of Washington in 2021. He knows what it takes to get to that point. And I think that it's fair to have high expectations for this team. You have one of the most, if not the most experienced setter in the entire Big Ten on your roster, and Melanie Schaffmaster. She is healthy again this year. Had some trouble with her mobility last year, was slowed up by a recurring knee injury, and she's good to go right now. Then you have the emergence of former, I don't know what their mascot is, former Prior Lakers? Are they the Lakers?
Lakers, I think.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know exactly what they are, but she went to Prior Lakes.
We'll hear.
Thank you for
Alex.
confirming. Should know my mascots. I'm a big fan of those in our local area. But, Julie Hansen has turned into a revelation here, too, where she was pretty limited. She averaged under a kill per set last year, even though she played in all 30 matches. And she is explosive. A former gymnast has a 35-inch vertical jump, and she just explodes, snaps the ball down. You have Lydia Grote, who transferred in from Cal. There's a lot, I think, to be excited about with this team, and to have an opportunity like Wisconsin right in front of them to try and take down they're number 7 right now, so a top 10 team on their home court, start out 1-0 in Big Ten play. I think this team is more than capable. And I think about something Melanie said after that win over Texas, where she said, we have to not worry about who's on the other side of the net. We have to remember we're Minnesota, and that certainly helped them in that contest.
I'm glad you brought that up because if I recall correctly, they lost to number 5 Stanford before they bounced back to beat number 1 Texas. So that's a mindset. That's some of the young women on the team could be like, oh, like dejected, and somehow they got it in there. Like, it doesn't matter who's on the other side. Yes, we lost to number 5, but we're going to beat number 1. That takes a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point to bring up, especially because that Stanford loss. And I think this maybe, Don, could have, kind of propelled that confidence for them going into that Texas match, is that there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds against Stanford. They had 23 service errors. That's a whole lot of points to be giving to the other team, and just something you just kind of cringe at, and you move on and hope your serving is better. And by the way, their serving has been better, and they're about mid-pack in the Big Ten right now in terms of aces per set. So it has improved for sure. But maybe after that, instead of kind of beating yourself up, you think, hey, we were right there. We could have taken down Stanford as well. Let's go get it tonight against Texas. So I think that does say a lot about the mentality of this team too, and why I think they'll be especially confident going up against Wisconsin, who is, they're a Final Four national championship contending team as well.
Good stuff, Sloane. Let's and we appreciate the update. That's a great sport, and I'm glad to see him doing well. And we probably should all cover them more than we actually do. Let's get to the big story now. The Lynx, we're talking here on Tuesday morning. The Lynx have game 2 of their series on Wednesday night at Target Center, and then we expect them to advance and face Connecticut in the next round. So what will you be looking for as a key to the game Wednesday night? And if they do advance, how do you view their matchup with Connecticut?
I think the Lynx have to think about ending it right here. You do not want to have a game 3 in Phoenix, which has a marvelous fan base who are going to be tuning in for what is potentially the final game of Diana Taurasi's career. They've been kind of playing coy. They have this marketing campaign. If this is it, they've been giving her flowers. She took the microphone in their final game at home in the regular season. I think it has to be done at Target Center, and then moving on to likely facing the Connecticut Sun. Of course, the Indiana Fever are a very young team. They also have a lot of high draft picks, likely WNBA Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark, of course, leading that team. But I think Connecticut is a team that knows how to win. They're some of the most experienced players in the playoffs. When you just look at teams' playoff experience, that Connecticut group is right up there with Las Vegas. So they're going to know how to get things done. The first game was a complete blowout against the Fever. And I don't want to look ahead too much, but I'm also thinking about that final meeting of the regular season between the Sun and Lynx. That was extraordinary. It felt like a heavyweight fight, just blows back and forth, going down to the wire. That huge, really deep 3 by Bridget Carlton. I am still reliving it. That was a super fun way to end the second to last game of the season before they rested everyone at home against Chicago. So not to get too far ahead there, but you look at game 1 where they're able to build a 20-plus point lead. And, Phoenix is a team that has been hard to really put a finger on this season, because you look at them, you look at the talents, you look at Taurasi, Griner, and Kalia Copper especially, and you think this is a team, that knows how to win, that has experience in the postseason together. But I never felt like it completely clicked with them, especially defensively, despite the presence of a free agent pickup in Natasha Cloud too. So I think that they have just been inconsistent and have really not played to the expectations I think we've had based on the talent that they have. So the Lynx absolutely with an opportunity, I think, to put them away, knowing they're a team that is consistent, that they've done it before in dominant fashion. Maybe don't have to make it so exciting in the end too, like they did in the fourth quarter, but you have to expect that a team in desperation mode is going to come charging right back at you and scratching and clawing their way back. And Phoenix is especially a team that you can expect to not lay down, particularly when their season is on the line underneath, their new head coach, Nate Tibbetts, who came from the NBA. I believe he's now the highest paid coach in the WNBA, surpassing Becky Hammon, or at least right up there along those lines. So he certainly has those expectations to go farther. But I think Minnesota absolutely, with just their connectedness, their cohesiveness. Defense was maybe not quite as apparent in game one as I was expecting, but I think that was just an example of how this team can win in different ways, where it was like, hey, we're not really slowing them down. I think they had 14 threes against Minnesota, so a lot to improve on. But the fact that they won, I think, is significant in saying, hey, we can get it done.
Well, with all of that said, I have one more question then for you, because you've been around the team from the beginning of the season to now, seeing how they performed in their first playoff game. The personality of this team has seemed, just from the outside looking in terms of watching their games and whatnot, they seem to be more powerful in their personality. What is your assessment of, from when you first saw them at the beginning of this season to now going into game two? What has shifted, do you think, team-wise, personality-wise?
That's a really good question, Dawn, and I think is certainly a relevant component to look at for this team this season. I think someone like Courtney Williams really brings that kind of demeanor. She is fierce. She can be mean, not off the court. She is an absolute pleasure, to talk to, and, such a professional, and always look forward to her interviews. But she's not going to back down on the court. And I think that addition for the Minnesota Lynx was especially important. And that's why I bring up also the evolution of Napheesa Collier too, because I think that kind of fierceness, that toughness, and not to say that she wasn't those things before, but that take over mentality, that lethal finisher, putting the team on her back. It hasn't been as present as it's been this season, her finishing second in MVP voting. So I think the combination of those pretty fiery personalities, you see it unleashed a little bit with Fee, especially just on the court, wanting that shot. I remember even last year, Dawn, where Cheryl Reeve, a couple games into last season, which was a disappointing finish, she said opposing teams have to know who our best player is. And she was calling out Napheesa Collier for deferring too much. And I think about that moment to where we are now in terms of Napheesa Collier with that ferocity and takeover mentality. That has been, I think, one of the biggest factors of the Lynx being at the point where they are right now and being national championship contenders. So that is, I think, a really interesting thing to bring up. I know Cheryl has talked throughout the season. We want to be more physical. We're an undersized team. That's why they get Maisha Hines-Allen, who, even though her brother obviously plays football, I feel like she also kind of plays like a football player too. I feel like she's a middle linebacker out there. Like, she is strong. Do not want to be taking a charge from her. So I think that's also a great addition too. So you're right that I think that has been significant for this team and part of what makes them so fearsome.
Well, all right, Sloane Martin, you are amazing. Hopefully they'll have that killer mentality in game two and they can just move on to Connecticut. And I think you can enjoy the games now, right? Because you actually don't have to cover that and work it. Do you have a chance to sit back and be like, oh, now I can kind of be a little bit of a fan?
I would love to, but the first two games, hopefully there's not a game three, have coincided with volleyball games, so I am busy and missing it. But my behind will be in a chair very soon come the second round, around the semifinals and beyond, and hopefully there is
no spoilers.
No,
right?
No
spoilers.
That's the thing. Yes, sometimes it is a surprise to be kind of box score hunting. I wish I could be sitting down, but it's not too bad doing my job either.
Well, Sloane Martin, you are a joy. From me watching you and listening to you, from the Olympics to your Lynx coverage to anything you write to your sidelines and your Big Ten network. I'm just so proud of your career, just in total, not only with the Lynx. Kudos to you, my friend. I just think you're so talented, and the world is just beginning to see what you have to offer. And we're humbled that you can join us too, because I could listen to you talk about sports all day.
Oh, Dawn, thank you so much. I'm so, I appreciate the invite. I appreciate having you in my corner too. It's a really fun time, and hopefully we can talk Lynx soon, because there will be more basketball to come.
All right, that's Sloane Martin. Jim, we gotta get ready for Lynx game 2.
Yep. Hey, it's been great basketball. As Sloane said, it's just beautiful basketball to watch. And also I'd like to add, Sloane, that love to see your work. I appreciate you coming on, and best of luck, because your career is taking off, and it's great to see.
Appreciate it, Jim. Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.